The light shining through every person I have met on this journey has filled my heart with joy, and I would even say ecstasy, and it was mutual. It was just flowing back and forth.
Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with Sheikha Maryam Kabeer. Sheikha Maryam is a world traveler and has actually had, from what I understand, 24 trips to various parts of Africa. The first video that you just saw was from her trip to Kenya. I'm very anxious to have her talk about that, and then we'll talk a little bit later about her trip to Senegal as well. Sheikha Maryam, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Abundant blessings and peace be upon everyone. May our gathering together bring us all closer to the one of infinite mercy and grace, and make us become conscious travelers on this sacred journey more and more deeply.
So what can you tell us about the Kenya trip? It was a wonderfully produced video. Is that from a larger video that they're going to create for you? Or was that intended to be just
Yes.
that introduction?
I think in Hollywood they call it a trailer.
Yeah, okay.
It's a trailer. and I speak with my beloved friends there, and they're working on kind of a documentary type, talking about many different messages that we shared while I was there. I was invited to Kenya several years ago, before the pandemic. There had been another author that came to travel around the country, and it was very much loved by everyone. And then they really wanted me to come, but then we couldn't travel. So as soon as the doors opened and the planes were flying, they invited me back. So I have a publisher for my book that's very much connected to the people that invited me. And I do not decide whether I'm going or not. I just say, yes, alhamdulillah. You know, especially when the call comes in a very, very blessed way, there's nothing to say. You know, I don't go and investigate what's happening in that country. I didn't know until I got there. You know, and I know many people in around where we live that are connected to the work going on there, but many of them don't know what's going on there. So my trip there to that specific place had very specific purposes and benefits that I will discuss. When you said 24, I'm counting like this: 1 trip to Kenya, 19 trips to West Africa, and I think 4 trips to North Africa. And this is the beginning of an ever unfolding story. Relating to this story, and it's very clearly manifested in West Africa, a part of the story is to end racial divisions forever. I mentioned what my father's saying to me in my youth, and I did meet Dr. Martin Luther King, Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, as a tremendous blessing for also. And
it's amazing.
We were always a part of that. We were always thinking that way. You know, how do we end this? Now, there were Jewish people working with the people, Martin Luther King's people, you know, protesting inequality. Now, when I see myself, having gone to Africa so many times, that's the fulfillment of that particular training that I had with my family, and it's always been that way. I used to, in high school and junior high school, I would wear a sign that said, Congress of Racial Equality. You know, I would always wear this kind of badge, be here now, Congress of Racial Equality. And so when I would have kids sitting with me to share knowledge, you know, we would be talking like this. And people would address me, the people coming around us would address me as CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. Now they're addressing me that way. And I accept that name. I like that name. Now, having been brought up in an atmosphere of much love for all, and particularly ending racial divisions, as well as other divisions, certainly I had to go to Senegal many, many times because I kept being welcomed there in very deep ways. We'll talk about that later. As for Kenya, it was another type of experience, and Morocco also. Morocco was very mystical and very much based on the history of Morocco and certain holy places there that I felt completely connected to. But Kenya had its own focus, and that's what we're addressing now. So the people sent me the tickets. They took care of everything. And when I was welcomed, you can see some of the pictures in the video. You've seen some of what it looked like, you know, that they would bring me to one place after the next. I went to probably 6 or 7 centers in Kenya. And that in each place, the people were like immensely responsive to our mission, our common mission. A lot of them were younger, some were elder, right? But it didn't really matter. And nor did I make one decision at all about where I was going. I got in the car and they brought me to one place after the next. In every case, it's a matter of meeting and sharing God's love with our fellow beings. What is interesting about Kenya is that it's been a refuge, according to what I learned about it. It's a refuge for people from different countries like India, Pakistan, and Turkey, as well as others, right? So there's something in the atmosphere of the place which is dedicated to welcoming people from all around the world. And people are coming from one kind of challenge or another to this place of refuge. There are also difficulties going on right there within the country, political, etc. But what I was guided to participate in was circles of light. I'm going to give an example of one of them. It was the second to last place I visited. And it was a school for girls
Right.
run by the government. And so personally, I was wondering, where am I going now? I don't know. And here I am. I've arrived. All right. And a lot of the trip was continuous. So I'm at the next place now. Right. So they brought me into this school. The girls were Muslim. They had beautiful white shawls on, and they put me to sit at the front of the hall. And the girls, the picture that was taken was from behind, where the girls were all in beautiful white shawls, and you couldn't even see me, right? But I'm telling a story which is just like talking to you. You tell the story of what happened in your life, specifically focusing on the mercy of God, the grace of Allah that has been guiding us. Not only me, you and them. We're all in a circle here of children of God. So what happened is, as I was saying certain words, I don't know what they were, maybe after an hour of the talk, suddenly absolutely everybody stood up. All the girls stood up. I think there were 300 in ecstasy, and they're just proclaiming God's praise. And then they're saying, thank you for sending her to us. Thank you, God. Right? And then I went to the front of the group of where they were, and we have a beautiful picture of everybody ascended, like standing in praise of God. Well, that tells us what we need, what our purpose is. This is one really deep message for me, and everybody was so ecstatically happy because of God's grace. That's the nature of my journey. So I'm just giving an example of one of those places. And then I went to other schools and places where people had, like one of the teachers, when she was 18 years old, was starting to get spiritual training. When she was 22, she started the center. And here were all these people gathered to learn Arabic, to learn wisdom and grace. She's 22 years old. That was her mission. And it goes from throughout the whole journey, it was like that, from one center to another, to another. Everywhere we found such kinship, true brotherhood, sisterhood. So beautiful. Another aspect that I learned, my hosts, Mustafa Cenk, who invited me, who knew that he had to invite me. I mean, he was so very beautiful, such a beautiful being. And what they are doing is nonprofit work all around the country. On my various trips, I become aware of, they have schools called Academies of Light. How many schools? I think there were 8 large universities called Academies of Light, where with so many students being welcomed and trained with such joy. Then we went to orphanages. We went from one orphanage to another, and joined hands with the orphans and celebrated. Some of them were not Muslim, some of them were. This is a matter of all humanity, of serving humanity through the love of God. And so there was another place where I went to one of the academies of light and met a group of orphans in their later teens there. So I was sitting with them, and especially one of them was so beautiful, so radiant, the light of God pouring through his face. And I said, you are one of the future imams of this community, of the world. May you be, no, I said it that way, may you be, a giver of light to the world. And the person was just beaming, and now this is the quality of my interactions with the people. Either they were, either they were orphans or they were people who were providing for orphans, in a lot of incredibly thoughtful ways, okay, and clear and positively manifesting ways. In other words, people were really being helped. Now, many of us have heard the word Kenya, but I even who had heard about it and felt it, I didn't realize how much service was going on, how much service of humanity was going on there. And that was especially happening with Turkish people who were more or less having left their own country and come, found their footing here where they could truly serve. And that was just so incredibly beautiful. The last event that we had there was a interfaith gathering, because they do that too. They do interfaith. So they asked me to speak, I speak, and then nuns and monks respond, as well as other people, other religions too, right? They responded with such depth of understanding. That was another one of the lessons of our true purpose. What are we doing here on earth? Let's unite in the light. So that was, now at the end I was speaking, and there was also young people, like one young boy, his name was Ikram, who just was with me always, with the most love, the most beauty. And we went to a gathering of Muslim women run by Pakistanis. Pakistani girls and women. The girls were taking care of everything, and then the ambassador of Pakistan to Kenya was sitting up front with me, next to me, sharing abundant love. We were connected so deeply. But then they didn't even ask her to speak. They asked me to speak. So I just got up, spoke, and that boy had my book on his lap. He was sitting in the front row, absorbing and then spreading that light, right? And then this is what happened throughout. Wherever we would go, an assembly would occur, and then everyone would be uplifted into greater faith, faith in their own life. That's what we were dedicated to. And then as I was, the last trip when I came back to the center headquarters, and the nature is so beautiful there, absolutely beautiful, palm trees. Well, it's the same nature I found in Sri Lanka, the same nature I found on Umrah. Those trees, the palm trees are everywhere. And then the beautiful feeling of being at home in the universe, of doing good work in a beautiful place, that type of thing. But at the end, Mustafa told me that they filmed the whole thing, by the way, wherever, I did several talks with them. But then at the end, within 5 days, they made that video. It took them 5 days to make that video. But, at the end, and you can see them in the video, the family that you see lined up are my hosts. And so he told me to make contact with someone in America who is an extension of the same nonprofit organization, which I did as soon as I got back, because I really wanted to be engaged in the work of helping, serving the lives in need. We all hear this, we feel it, but we have to find ways to manifest it. So at the end, he gave me the contact information, and I called the people, and they came to our house. I had some friends here, and they were so beautiful. And they had been doing such amazing work. So in a few days, I'm going to be going to a center connected to this way of thinking and feeling, and share what happened in Kenya as a way of increasing the possibility of getting more help to more people in need. And that's what these are some of the many lessons of grace that I learned and that uplifted my heart and increased my dedication to help humanity any way we can.
My immediate reaction when I first saw that video was just the amount of joy and love that you could see in everyone. And it meant a lot to me seeing that. And I think it's really important for people in the Western world to be seeing things like this, because for some reason I think we're led to believe that that can exist, you have to have a certain economic level or a certain, stance in terms of your world position, and that's not true at all. These people were incredibly loving and kind, and clearly joyous in the lives that they had, and I was really, really grateful to see that, and I look forward to seeing the next part of that video, because it was a wonderful job that they did in a very, very short amount of time.
Yes.
So now
And,
I know we have another video. Oh, go ahead. Continue, please.
yeah, I'm going to go, there's like a bridge of truth that I crossed over from one land to another. And I keep walking on it, Now, before I got to Kenya, I was in Morocco long ago. I was very deeply guided to Morocco, and specifically as an artist, I would say. It's exceedingly artistic there. What you see there is such beautiful artifacts. Also, when you go to certain holy cities, one of them is called Fez, another is called Meknes. You feel the presence of those who gathered there throughout the centuries, praising God. You feel their prayers. And as I was praying there, I felt the prayers that had been made there forever. This is true of holy places. When they don't,
Yes.
It doesn't stop and it doesn't start. It's like an ongoing remembrance of God. It makes it such a blessed domain. And as a spiritual traveler, your soul is uplifted again and again by the realization that how many beings have been brought together for the sole purpose of praising God. And then, as we said, serving the creations of the wondrous creator, So I saw a lot of both of those things in Morocco. I was there several times. And then I was guided to West Africa. And when our beloved Sheikh Bawa radiallahu anhu left the world, I was guided to what's called the Sufi Conference, the first Sufi conference in LA, in Northern California. And
Wow.
We got a message. It said, we were invited there, and we said that we should make a place of refuge in the hotel where everybody can eat and where we can serve everybody. This is all it's called ibadah. You have the faith in your heart and you manifest it in service. That's the word I keep mentioning. So we decided, I and my good friend that I was traveling with, we decided to make a place like that, a receiving place for everyone, to serve everyone there. And once we set it up and got all the food ready, an African sheikh appeared. His name was Sheikh J. And then when he met me, he said, I have come to pour water on the seeds planted by Bawa Mahidi. He knew Bawa. He knew Bawa, right? All of us are connected. And so we were serving him food, and he was serving me the light of Africa. So shortly after, he came to our house here, the same house where all the people keep coming, right? And he brought so many disciples from so many countries into this house. And he was sitting right on this chair here, telling me mysteries, the chair I'm sitting in many, many years ago, telling me mysteries about the house and what is happening in this house, right? Well, anyways, it's ever continued to unfold. But at that point, he did tell us so there were people from Reunion Islands, from Mauritius, etc., all places that we went to. What are these places but the places where our beloved companions abide? So anywhere, I could be in my own home and I'll be guided to one holy place after the next. Or while we're out there in one place, we'll be guided to the next. This is a holy journey. And it's beyond what people talk about, or people talk about just one group of people going on a trip. No, Bawa says, love everyone as your own life. That's what my trip has been. So at this point, he said, come to Africa. That was the first of 19 trips to West Africa. And anyone who goes there knows why, if your heart is open, and they would be dancing in their celebrations of praise. And I am like that too. We would just really, truly dance together, really, truly, And at one point, Sheikh Jay, the first Sheikh that I met, says to me, we're going on he was running for president of the country, okay? They did not call him by his own name. They called him Allahu Wahidun. That in Arabic, that means God is one. So wherever we went, when people saw us, they said, God is one. That's how they addressed us. God is one. That's a great message, and it's true. So we were going out to this gathering out there in the wilderness. It took hours out into the wilderness. There were nothing civilized out there. There was no signs, no signs. So how do you find out how to get to the place? They would stop, the driver would stop and ask somebody, just standing or walking on the street, and then get a direction. And we finally arrived quite a long time after that. I went into a house and met the people, and then we went outside, and there was a circle of children formed. And the sheikh asked me to sit down with the children, and they put a newborn baby in my lap. So there we were in the circle. Again, the whole thing is about the circle of grace. Well, anyways, the sheikh was speaking to the kids in Wolof. And I'm not fluent in Wolof, I know some words. Then he translated it into French. I learned French in junior high school, so I understood. And so what he was saying is, these are your children. They don't have clothes, they don't have blankets, and they're your children. Get them what they need. Get them what they need. So what we did is, my son was there with me, and so the time was coming, after the trip was coming to an end, we went back to America. He was in Quaker school at the time, and so in the Quaker tradition, very beautiful tradition, you would sit together as a community in silence and then speak what you had to say. So I spoke about the children in the wilderness, and within 2 or 3 days, at least no more than a week, everything was brought. The Quakers gave everything to the African villagers. This is another message, so beautiful, because it wasn't just a nonprofit, it was coming from a whole tradition. It's something that makes Pennsylvania really beautiful, is the Quaker tradition here. And so, but it's all about love. It's not about one format or another. It's about people helping one another and deepening in their love of God, like that, as we say. Well, in any case, so that was completed at that moment. Then we went back. More things happened. He was having a very good time in Quaker school, etc. Right? But then we went back to Africa many more times. 18 more times. He maybe 5 times, or 6. Right? Well, and we would be sitting on the steps of the Sheikh's home and doing hours and hours of remembrance of God. That was our training in Africa. As well as praying that much, we also gathered with the community. We had wonderful food. And as I said, we danced for joy and celebration of what? Of what? Our unity, our love. And I've spoken at big events there in later years where the speakers have always been men. And here I am, they're asking me to speak. Year before last, I was there, the words were flowing and the people were celebrating. I was transmitting a certain holy song, meaningful transmission. The next year, so many beautiful presenters came to me and sang to me the same thing I said to them. They sang back that song with great joy. Now, while we were at that last year, the year before this one, so in the middle of the assembly, right? I was sitting next to the men. Most of the women don't sit there, right? So this is a message of part of the mission. It's to transcend that too, that division. And the men were very happy. They were very, as well as the women. You know what I'm saying? It's not just one group, but to have a woman participating was very important. And then in the middle of, after I spoke, I saw someone presenting so beautifully. He was speaking in Arabic, but I understood. So I went over to make a donation, okay? Put it in the cup there, or a bowl or something. So he says to me in the middle of this assembly, he said, I know you, I know you, I know you. And then he said he met me in one place. Then he said he's known me for 20 years. He's been meeting me in different places. Around, in Africa, sure, but elsewhere, in America. And he said, we appreciate you so much. So that kind of expresses this collective feeling that we had there. Now, when we go to the video, it's years later. Well, this one was just a year later than that. And so when you see and the person who's interviewing me interviewed me at the last event as well, and we're very close friends. He's the son of my very dear Sheikh that I am deeply connected to. So he says in the interview how much he knows me, how much he knows who I really am. Well, what these trips are is to bring humanity together, male, female, black, white. These are completely illusory separations, or one religion and another. As long as I said in the last talk, it goes from the beginningless beginning to the holy assembly in which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ascends into the divine presence, and everyone is praying together. That's our understanding. That's my experience, let's say. And I learned it in Africa repeatedly, and other people that I know who go there often, they always say the same thing. And the second to the last trip, we were going away early in the morning. We call it after morning prayers. I was driving with a really dear friend, and we went to the gas station, right? At the gas station, the most beautiful songs were pouring through the gas station. They're called qasidas, filling the gas station. The guy in front of us who was filling a tank, he has his prayer beads. He had a prayer beads around his neck. While the gas is going into the tank car, he takes his prayer beads off and prays. That's what you find in West Africa, as well as elsewhere. But I found wherever I went, I would hear those qasidas on any block of the streets. In Kashmir, India, where I went, very seriously, deeply, in the very early morning, you hear the call to prayer, and then you hear so many prayers being broadcast throughout. And then what I said about Afghanistan, prayers are filling the universe, and mostly people don't know this. If you just turn on the television, you don't know. You can't hear those prayers necessarily, except now on YouTube, you see people speaking beautiful talks about prayer and wisdom. And that's another sign. Yes, so that's the kind of introduction. Do you have any questions?
Well, my only question at this point is if we should continue with this right now or go to a third part, because we've already been talking for about half an hour, and I'm going to let you make the decision, Sheikha. Would you like to just go right into the next video, or would you like to put this and create a part 3 and just concentrate on Senegal? That's your call. I don't really know what to do at this point.
I think the original plan came from your heart. I respect that. And that I don't think we need to go further now. We have other meetings that we'll have to go deeper into any aspect of the journey. There's lots of dimensions of the journey, but your plan was to go into the next video. You may edit this one if it's taking too long, but arrive at the destination that you had in mind.
Okay. That's why I just wanted to make sure. And you made the call, and I agree. So I'd like my viewers to settle back and watch really an incredible interview. It's only a part of the interview. We'll post the entire interview separately, but this is an interview that Sheikha Maryam did in Senegal. And the title of the video, I think, speaks for itself, and it speaks to her mission. It's called Unite in the Light to End Separation Forever. Unite in the light of God, excuse me. Unite in the light of God to end separation forever. So let's enjoy that, and then on the other side, we'll have our discussion. Thank you so much, Sheikha, for talking about your Kenya trip. It was fascinating.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for keeping the doors so wide open. You have welcomed me always, and like that is what we believe we must all do, as my father told me. You know. Mm-hmm. Strangers must be welcome wherever they go. That means there are no strangers. We are not strangers. We are part of a divine assembly, and we need to be together again and again, as we have been, to share. And then as we make the journey, we get new levels of understanding. That's why we need to speak again. You know, the last time I spoke to you, I had never been to Kenya. You know, then we hadn't really spoken about Senegal. But now the time has come, and where we're guided next, God will show us. But the message is inherent, and it's totally unifying, as you said. May we unite in the light of God and end separations forever.
Okay, so we are going to record part 3 now to keep the flow of our conversation going. But I think it would be best to post it separately to give it the attention that it deserves. So please come back and join us for part 3 of Sheikha Maryam's journey to Africa on the Bridge of Truth. See you then.